Hi, my name is Deb and this is DG Reads. Welcome back to my videos. It's that time of month again for a new TBR. So for June, I am participating in the Amazing Readathon, which is from Bree at Four Paws in a Book. And for this one, you can't entirely plan a TBR. There are 10 prompts that are going to be dropped throughout the month, and you don't know those ahead of time, so it's impossible to plan for those. But there are what's known as sightseeing prompts, and those have extra points for your team if you can get to them. So my idea is to set up a TBR with some options for that. Of course, if any of my books wind up suiting a city prompt, I can absolutely shift things around. Nothing's locked in stone, but I just figured going into the month with plans to earn my team some extra points would not be a bad thing. I'm on Team Fantasy, which is led by Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy and Kristen from Kristen Craves Books. And I will have Bree, her announcement video, and both of our team leads linked down below for you for easy reference. But for now, I figure picking out some prompts to plan to read going into the month to hopefully get my team some bonus points along the way would not be a bad way to start off the month. So here we go. Let's see what the Promptball machine has for us. First up, we've got a poll pick. For my poll pick, I've put up 4 books on Bookstagram, and I figured I'd let you know what those 4 were. I've got The Forest Demands Its Due by Kosako Jackson. This is about a queer youth in an academic setting who learns that there's something dark going on behind the scenes. This is an author I've read for contemporary books before, but I'm looking forward to trying out a horror. I've got What Lies Between Us by John Mars. There's 2 women sharing a house. They have dinner together every night, but one of them goes up to be locked into the attic, maybe? Something along those lines. Very intrigued to read more from John Mars. And then Icarus by Kay Ingram. This one is following the title character Icarus, I believe, who is a thief who helps replace stolen things with his father's forgeries, and he's kept people at a distance all his life until eventually he doesn't. And then lastly, we've got Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill, and this one was gifted to me recently by Harper Perennial, and this is following the great niece of Victor Frankenstein, who knows her great uncle disappeared into the Arctic but doesn't know the secrets or the details, so it winds up finding some family documents and looking into, I believe, the mystery of it. And I'll go ahead and put the winner of the Bookstagram poll here. And next up, an emoji poll pick. So we're starting strong with some poll picks. For my emoji poll, I'm again putting this one up on Bookstagram and we'll share the results, but these are the 4 books that I put as part of that poll. I had An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon, an author I've read from and enjoyed before. This is a science fiction novel. It says it's about structural racism and generation shifts, and definitely one on my TBR. I've got Evocation by S.T. Gibson. This one is a fantasy. It sounds like it's a bit gothic, paranormal, and it has to do with secret societies and magic and all things that are buzzwords for me. I've also got Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This is a new book in the same realm as A Darker Shade of Magic. I'm excited to get to that one. And lastly, I've got Lost Places by Sarah Pinsker. This is another short story collection by an author I really loved before in writing short stories. So the results from the Bookstagram poll are and then we've got a cover with something on it beginning with a randomized letter. For the prompt for a cover with something on it beginning with a randomized letter, I need a letter. So let's see what we get. And it's a G. So I will think on that one. And for a cover with something on it beginning with a randomized letter. My letter was G. And for that, I'm picking up The Editor by Stephen Rowley and glasses. G was a harder letter than I expected. I had a lot of titles with G, but not a lot of objects with G. But anyway, this is one that's again been on my shelf for quite a while. This one is following an author who's finally selling a manuscript to an editor, but it winds up putting strain on the relationships in his life, and that causes problems, and he winds up forming a friendship with this editor who's Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. So this is another one that I've been needing to get to, and glad to have this excuse to do it. And an indie book. For my indie book pick, I'm going to be going with A Misfortune of Lake Monsters, and this is by Nicole M. Wolverton. This is a gifted e-arc from Camcat Books, and I don't know a lot about it other than we're following a main character who really wanted to escape her small town, and instead she's been told she has to impersonate a lake monster for the rest of her life. So that has me intrigued. For Around the Year in 52 Books, a book related to going for the gold, which seems very appropriate when you're in a race for Amazing Readathon. For a book related to going for the gold, I'm going to pick up Fathom Folk by Eliza Chen, and the gold on this one has to do with all the pretty gold foiling on this really pretty Illumicrate edition that I have. And this one is set in a society that I think is meant to be a utopia, but the humans live above. All the mermaids and selkies and all of those who live in the water are down below and looked down on. So I am curious to find out more about this one. And for Around the Year in 52 Books, a book that has been on your TBR for over a year. Definitely have a lot of those. For a book that's been on your TBR for over a year, I've got Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White, and this is following a trans boy who's 16 years old. He's on the run from the cult that raised him. It's a dystopian horror from what I understand, and this one I picked up at one of my local indies, and it's been on my TBR for quite a while, and I need to get to it. All right, so I've got two more here. First one being a short book, which is always good for a readathon. For my short book, I'm going to be reading You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. This is one that's been on my Kindle for a while, but it's one of those out of sight, out of mind things. I keep kind of forgetting to consider it when I'm looking for books to pick up. So I'm looking forward to reading some more from Eric LaRocca. And last but not least, a book that I've been gifted by Penguin Random House Audio. For PRH Audio, I am going to be reading A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, and this is one I have an e-arc for from Berkeley, but I do plan to also pick up the audio from PRH Audio. And this one finds a professor getting caught up quite literally in a work of fiction. So always love a good bookish book and have really enjoyed all of the books of hers that I have read. Okay, it is now the next day. All the poll results are in, so I have all of my book choices, and it's a good time to go over what prompts they will actually work for the Amazing Readathon. All right, starting with the 500-point books that I have. I've got A Misfortune of Lake Monsters by Nicole M. Wolverton, and this works for a book with exactly 5 words in the title. You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca will work for having all 5 vowels on the cover between the title and the author's name. Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan will work for foiling on the cover, and this one definitely does have foiling on the Illumicrate edition that I will be reading. Moving on to books that are worth 400 points for my team, I have The Editor by Stephen Rowley, and this one will work for a book with only one person on the cover. I have Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White, and this one will work, I believe, for a book with non-human characters. This one has monsters mentioned in the synopsis. And then Our Hideous Progeny, which is by C.E. McGill. This one will work for an author who uses initials. And then moving on to books that are worth 300 points for my team. For An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon, this will work for a POC author. And lastly, I have A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, and I think this one will work for a book involving travel because the main character is traveling to a retreat when her car breaks down and she winds up in a novel location. So that's it for me for this sightseeing TBR for the Amazing Readathon. And I look forward to reading all of these books and hopefully getting to a whole lot more in the month of June to earn Team Fantasy a lot of points and help Team Fantasy to victory. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of these books? Do you have any other books that you would recommend to me based on the prompts that I picked or just in general? And if you've made it this far and don't have anything to comment, give me a running emoji because of course we are participating in a great race. I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button below, subscribe if you're interested in more of my content, and that's it for me. Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next video.